Hello, class. Today we're going to continue with this topic and we're going to do part 6 today. And part 6 is all about latent heat. Now, latent heat explains why the temperature is constant during changes in state. As you remember from last time, during melting, freezing, boiling, condensation, during any state changes, the temperature is constant. Even though you are giving the substance heat energy or the substance is losing heat energy, the temperature doesn't change. Why is that so? So, like I said, during melting or boiling, the temperature of a substance remains constant, even though we are supplying heat energy to it. So, let's look at it in a little bit more detail by using this simulation here. In this simulation, on the left side, I have a block of ice, okay, so solid water. And on the right side, you have a graph of temperature against time. Now, in this simulation, I'm going to heat up the ice and we're going to look at what is happening to its temperature over time. So I'm going to run this simulation. So as you can see, the temperature is rising, but once the ice has started melting, you can see that the temperature becomes constant and the temperature only rises up once everything has melted. And you will see during melting, we are still heating the ice up. We are still giving the ice energy. If the energy is not used to raise the temperature of the ice or the substance, what is the heat energy being used for? That is the question. And now the water is going to boil. And you can see again, we are still giving the water energy, but its temperature doesn't rise. Why is that so? Okay. And then once you will see again, once everything has completely boiled off, the water has become water vapor or steam, the temperature begins to rise again. Okay, so in this case, it's the temperature of the steam. So where does the energy go? We are still supplying it energy, or it's losing energy in the case of if you're cooling it. Where does the energy go? So the answer to this is during this process, the energy is not being used to raise the temperature or to lower the temperature, but instead it is used to weaken the attractive forces between the molecules. Now, this is important, thus allowing the molecules to move further apart from each other. So instead of using the heat energy to raise its temperature, the substance or the particles uses the heat energy to break the attractive forces or to break the intermolecular forces so that they can move further apart so that they can change state from solid to liquid or liquid to gas in the case of heating. So here is a diagram. If they are solid, you can see they are close apart with each other. If they want to be liquid, they have to be a bit more further apart from each other. And if they want to be gas, then they have to be much more further apart than when they are in liquid. So, in order to have this sort of distance between the particles, they need to overcome the intermolecular forces between them. And they need energy to do that. And they get the energy from the heating. Now, in the case of freezing or condensation, the temperature of the substance also remains constant. Again, why is this so? So, normally when cooling down, the substance loses energy to the environment, which causes its temperature to fall, except during condensation and freezing. It's still cooling down, it's still losing energy, but its temperature is still constant. Why is that so? Again, during freezing or condensation, the energy is not released to the surrounding, but instead it is stored or absorbed in order to strengthen the attractive forces between the molecules. So this part is important. Thus, the molecules are no longer able to go as far as they could before. So here, when there are gas, the attractive forces between the molecules are weak. So that's why they are able to be far apart from each other. And then as it is cooling or as the substance condense, they become closer to each other. So instead of releasing the energy to the environment, making the temperature fall down, the energy is stored to strengthen the attractive forces so that they can become closer together. And then the same thing for freezing. when it changes from liquid to solid, the energy again, instead of being released to the environment, the energy is then being kept in the substance or in the particle and convert it to strengthening the attractive forces between the molecules. Okay? And the energy needed for the substance to change its state is called latent heat. So the energy needed to overcome the attractive forces during any change in state, during melting or boiling, is what we call latent heat. And also the energy being stored in order to strengthen the attractive forces is also called latent heat. So the energy needed to change from one state to another is equal to the energy needed for its reverse process. So you need 336,000 joules to turn 1 kilograms of ice into water. And in order for you to turn it back from water into ice, you also require the same amount of energy. Now, there are two types of latent heat. There's the latent heat of fusion, and this is for melting or freezing. So the definition of latent heat of fusion is the energy needed to change a substance from solid to liquid or vice versa. So vice versa means the reverse at a constant temperature. And for boiling or condensation, the type of latent heat for this process is called latent heat of vaporization. And the definition of the latent heat of vaporization is the energy needed to change a substance from liquid to gas or vice versa at a constant temperature. So just like heat capacity, latent heat also depends on the mass of the substance. Therefore, it will be inconvenient and also it's going to be hard to remember or find the value for each substance. Here's an example. Latent heat of 1 kilogram of water is 336,000 joules, while 10 kilograms of water is 3,360,000 joules. Okay, so each mass has a different latent heat value, and this can be quite inconvenient or hard to remember. So we use specific latent heat. So specific latent heat is basically the latent heat divided by the mass. So the specific latent heat for each substance is the same regardless of the mass. So this is much more convenient. Okay, as you can see here, for aluminum, the specific latent heat of fusion. So in order for you to melt 1 kilogram of aluminum, this is how much energy you need. And if you want to boil 1 kilogram of aluminum, this is how much energy you need. Now let's look at water. If you want to melt ice into water, this is how much energy you need. And if you want to boil 1 kilogram of water into steam, this is how much energy you need. So the unit for specific latent heat has the unit of joules because it's energy. And because specific latent heat is latent heat divided by mass, the unit is joules per kilogram. And specific latent heat has the symbol L. So it's a fancy looking L, it's this one. And for specific latent heat of fusion, you have a small f as a subscript. And for vaporization, you have a small v as a subscript. Now, we can calculate specific latent heat, or you can calculate the energy needed to change a substance from one state to another. In other words, its latent heat by using this formula. So the E heat, so this is the energy needed, is equal to mass times the specific latent heat. Okay, E is equal to ml. Now let's do this example so that you can see how we can use that formula that you just learned. For melting and freezing, we use the specific latent heat of fusion. So in example 4a, how much energy is needed to totally melt 15 kilograms of ice, given that the latent heat of fusion of ice is 340,000 joules per kilogram? This is the latent heat of fusion of ice. And this is the mass m. And we want to find the energy needed to melt ice. What's the formula again? Formula is E is equal to ml. And in this case, it's the fusion. M is 15. The specific latent heat of fusion for ice is this one. And then you just calculate. You will get 5,100,000. And don't forget the unit because this is energy, joules. So in other words, if you want to melt 15 kilograms of ice, you will need 5,100,000 joules to do it. And this is its latent heat. Now let's do B. Given that the specific latent heat of fusion of water is 340,000 joules per kilogram, how much water in kilogram can you freeze by removing 1 million joules of energy from that body of water? So this is the specific latent heat of fusion for water, and you want to find its mass, and you are given 1 million joules of energy. So this is energy, and you want to find the mass. So again, we use the same formula, plug in the numbers. So 1 million joules of energy, the mass is the unknown, and then the specific latent heat of fusion is, and then you rearrange to make m the subject of the formula. You will get m to be 2.94 kilograms, and this is to 3 significant figure. Example 5. For boiling or condensation, we use the specific latent heat of vaporization. Again, for melting and freezing, we use the other specific latent heat, which is the specific latent heat of fusion. For boiling or condensation, we use this one. So let's do this. Water has a specific latent heat of vaporization value of about 2 million joules per kilogram. How much heat energy would we need to boil 1 kilogram of water? So this is the mass. This is the specific latent heat of vaporization, and we want to calculate its energy. We use the same formula, but this time the symbol L has a small v, and then the mass is 100. The specific latent heat of vaporization is 2 million, and then the answer is 200 million joules. Okay, so in other words, if you want to boil completely 100 kilograms of water, this is how much energy you need. So this is latent heat you need to boil water. Okay, so this is the last part of the video, and in this last part, I'm going to tell you a summary of what you just learned. So what do you need to know for your exam? First things first, you need to be able to explain why the temperature is constant during melting and boiling. And the reason for that is right over here. The energy is not used to raise the temperature, but instead it is used to weaken the attractive forces between the molecules. So that's the reason why the temperature is constant. Same thing for condensation and freezing. Why is the temperature constant during these two processes? It's because the energy is not released to the surroundings, but instead it is stored in order to strengthen the attractive forces between the molecules. And then you need to be able to understand what is latent heat. Latent heat is the energy needed for the substance to change its state. So there are two types of latent heat. For melting and freezing, it is the latent heat of fusion. For boiling and condensation, we call it the latent heat of vaporization. And these two are the definition of those two types of latent heat. Now, latent heat can be divided by mass, and once that happens, we have a special name for it, and we call it specific latent heat. And this is the latent heat that we often use when we calculate things. Specific latent heat has the unit joules per kilogram. It has the symbol LF for specific latent heat of fusion, LV for specific latent heat of vaporization. When you're calculating for substances that are melting or freezing, you use specific latent heat of fusion. When you're calculating for substances that are boiling or having condensation, you use the specific latent heat of vaporization. And this is the formula that you have to remember in order to calculate the energy needed to change a substance from one state to another. Okay, so that is the end of part 6. In part 7, we're going to look into some more examples of calculations involving specific latent heat. And also, we're going to have a recap or a summary of everything that you have learned so far in this particular chapter.